A tough day for baseball on Tuesday. We are going to recap it. We're going to get what's next and try to put a positive spin on all this, which quite frankly seems pretty hard. Don't go anywhere. This is Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Brewers, everybody. I'm Dominic Cotroneo with Vinny Rattino. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. He's a former big leaguer turned broadcaster. I'm a former broadcaster, still a broadcaster turned statistician. And today we are going to be talking MLB lockout as we have been for the last few weeks, few months it feels like. We're going to break down what was the actual offer, what went wrong, Rob Manfred's comments, as well as Tony Clark's, and then where do we go from here? So first of all, Vinny, I've been away from my phone for a lot of the day. I've been catching up, and I had a game yesterday. So I was on the air with Pac-12 Network, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and just kind of watching it unfold. And I'll tell you, we had a great crowd on hand for some college baseball, and I feel like that's going to be the sense for the next few days now that Major League Baseball has canceled the first two series of the year, which I said I would eat a hoodie that if they missed opening day, and well, I guess I'm going to be eating a hoodie. I mean, this is numbing, jaw-dropping, disappointing, frustrating, every single adjective in the book. How are you feeling?
Yeah, especially after last night where they extended that deadline. Originally, the deadline to miss opening day to get a deal done was for Monday, and today is Tuesday, and so it was hopeful, right? Even you and I talked off camera or whatever that it was going to be, you know, when they negotiate until 2 o'clock in the morning the day before and extend that deadline, there was just a feel that a deal was going to get done. And now it doesn't. I don't know. Then you read things as to what that really, the kind of the manipulation perhaps that you saw from the one side, from the owner's side about that. Maybe they weren't that close and they just wanted to make it feel like it was that close. And then the final offer, I don't know. You're just hearing a lot of things. I don't know what I'm feeling right now, Dom. I got to be honest. I'm disappointed. I'm heartbroken a little bit. I'm sure I'm feeling the same things that a lot of people are feeling right now.
I'll get into how I'm actually feeling it a little bit later, but because you can imagine how I feel right now. But let's just talk about the offer here first. Let's talk about why the players rejected it. Why did the owners offer? What did it come down to? This supposed best and final offer, which MLB claims they never said it was their best and final offer, and Players Association says, yes, you said it multiple times in the meeting, so which is why we've come to this point. The arbitration pool that we've talked about for players that are in 0 to 3 years of service time that are not Super 2 eligible, the owners have increased that pool to $30 million. However, something that's really key to note about that, we don't know how many players that's going to. The Players Association has been stuck on $85 million. And again, we don't know how many players it's going to. We've seen for the Players Association proposal to go to 150 players, for the MLB owners proposal for it to go to 50 players. So we don't know how many players exactly that pre-arb pool is supposed to go to. It's not going automatically to every player that was pre-arbitration eligible. It was going to the top X number of players. So they increased their number to 30 million. Then the competitive balance tax, which seemed like the biggest stalwart in all this, and I've got a lot of thoughts about the competitive balance tax, that they moved it up to $220 million for the next 3 years, not moving it any higher once it gets up to $220 for this year and for the next 2 years to follow. And then by the end of the deal in 2026, it would be $230 million. And then finally, the owners proposed the major league minimum salary starting at $700,000, and it can reach up to $740,000 by the end of the CBA. That's just the bare bones, raw numbers, the raw money that comes with it. We're not talking about lottery. We're not talking about service time manipulation. We're not talking about draft pick compensation for a free agent leaving, for a qualifying offer. These are the three main numbers that there were the biggest gaps. And clearly, like you said, from Monday night, it seemed from some reporters, their names are Bob Nightingale and John Heyman, saying that they were close. It turns out they weren't close. So it's frustrating to hear that and understand how did we get here if what they're reporting was accurate. But I look at a guy like Jeff Passan and Evan Drellick. Both those guys did not report what Heyman and Nightingale were saying at the same time. So I think that should tell you a little bit about how journalism works and how the sausage is made. I'll start with the competitive balance tax since we actually have hard numbers on this. Look, it operates like a salary tax, or like a salary cap. It really does. When only 2 teams went over it this year, and the Padres had a bigger salary payroll than the Yankees, that's saying something about our game right now. You know, it's very odd that a balance tax is being treated like a salary cap. And to be fair, we are talking from the perspective of the Milwaukee market, of a small market team. This is supposed to be in place to help the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that's barely right around $100 million the last few years for their payroll. So you're having a team pay double of your payroll and still being under the tax. The Brewers are definitely worried about this, and other small market teams are worried about this, but how worried should they be is the question. I wonder if we're going to act like this competitive balance tax is a salary cap, maybe it's time to get a salary cap in Major League Baseball, which is a big no-no in the players' union eyes.
That's a thought. Again, this stuff gets super complicated in terms of like what Dom, you do a better job of kind of understanding this and kind of tying it all together than I do, and then a lot of people can kind of understand. At the end of the day, I think where do we go from here, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea. You can't. We're at a roadblock with some of this stuff, and you're introducing a new idea of a salary cap. I'm sure it was discussed in the CBA negotiation. So I don't know where to go from here. But that's an interesting thought. That's an interesting idea, and
something.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, that's it. I mean, I really don't know where to go from here on that.
Well, something that I've been thinking about with the salary cap is, look, it's a bigger roster than the NBA, obviously. But the NFL is a good comp, granted they play fewer games. But I look at the Packers. I mean, they're able to afford Aaron Rodgers for $35 million, $40 million a year. It's Green Bay. You know, I mean, it's by baseball's logic, that's the smallest market, and there's no way they could afford a player like that. But that's not the case because of the salary cap. But there's also a salary floor in both the NBA and the NFL. Roughly around 90% of what the actual salary cap is, which means you have to spend X amount of money and not go over X amount of money. So that's where I think the snag comes in with the salary cap. You know, one of the very first offers was baseball saying, hey, let's do a salary cap at $180 million, but with our salary floor being $100 million. Again, the Brewers were barely over $100 million on payroll last year. They would barely be at the salary floor, and they were a pretty darn good team. I mean, it's so hard for baseball to figure out what works because small market teams win, and getting creative with baseball wins. Tampa Bay, Oakland, Kansas City. Kansas City has won a World Series in the last 10 years. You know, these teams that, you know, other people would say, oh, it's a small market. There's no way they could ever compete with the big boys. Kansas City has won a World Series more recently than the New York Yankees. And I think that says a lot about our sport, and which is why the Players Association is so adamant in saying, look, you don't need a salary cap. Anybody can win, but we just want to make sure our players get paid what they're worth. And we can get into that in a little bit. But it's very layered. It's very convoluted and meant to confuse you, so that way only the bigwigs can be the ones who explain it, right? That's exactly what the office wants. They want to be able to control it and say, and spin it, oh, it's too complicated for you. You need to understand it like this from our perspective. That's what the educate. It's like, knowledge is power, man. That's my motto. Knowledge is power. It's just learning about this crap is so frustrating to see how far it goes, right? Like the belt that went around for arbitration, for teams that got away with arbitration, cutting costs on getting players under arbitration their value. Like there was an actual championship belt amongst teams for trying to get little value out of their players. Rob Manfred calling it a piece of metal for the World Series trophy. There is actual evidence that they don't care. There is actual evidence. And it's just frustrating that we're at this point missing the first 2 series of the year. You should never miss a game for all of this. And I'm going to get into a little bit more later, but I spoke a lot. You take it away.
So at the end of the day, who's taking care of the game? I think that's what fans are kind of scratching their heads about. So you got Manfred kind of taking care and watching over the ownership groups, and you have Tony Clark obviously watching over the players, and who's kind of taking care of the game. And I think that's where the players, it seems, everything that I've read, the players, that's where they're at. They're like, let's make sure that the Kansas City Royals in the past, with the old ownership group of the Kansas City Royals, was tanking, and I'm talking back, early 2000s and the 90s, was tanking and then making a ton of money, right? Because they had a very low payroll. I think that's kind of the thing you want to stay away from is and kind of what you're saying is like, ownership groups don't care. They're losing and not putting a good product on the field and then still making a ton of money. That's the thing you want to stay away from. So how to get there, it is complicated, man. It is super complicated. I think that they set these rules in place and they really don't know how it's all going to play out and how it's going to affect the game because there's ways probably to manipulate the rules that are set in place, right? And we've seen that. So I think that's kind of the thing that is very, very convoluted and very kind of hard to understand what is best for the game. I don't know if anybody really knows until it all plays out.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll get into the comments from Rob Manfred and Tony Clark here in just a second. But we're going to talk about BetOnline before we do that. With football season over, basketball in full swing, latest odds, totals, and player performance props. All that can be found at betonline.net, the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And not just basketball. They've got your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right there on betonline.net. Head to the website today, or you can use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and all the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, Vinny, we got a lot of comments to get to here, and there's a bunch of great articles that are coming out in reaction. The first one that really caught my eye was from Andy McCullough, and we talked about Andy McCullough the other night. He had a really good one from Sunday night ahead of the deadline. Andy McCullough writes for The Athletic. He was just repeating the sources that he talked to around the game, scouts, coaches, staffers, whomever. He said, one said, ridiculous. Sick to my stomach, said another. This is so stupid, I can't be angry anymore, a third said. It's crazy that we're at this. And at the end of the day, let's talk about Rob Manfred. It's time to get to that point. Do you want to talk about the photo now, or should we talk about it later? And do you know what photo I'm talking about?
Talking about when he was laughing kind of before the presser.
Laughing and getting ready to take a practice golf swing?
I didn't see the practice golf swing, thank goodness.
It's on the back page of the New York Post this morning. It's as bad as you could expect it to be. It's delusional. It's not centered in the real reality that we're facing. I'm trying not to bag on Rob Manfred. I'm really showing a lot of self-restraint right here. But now that it's sinking in that he was photographed in the most important negotiation in the last 26 years of baseball, working on, I got to get inside a little bit. I got to work on my golf swing here. Like, think about that for a second. This dude boasted about his undefeated track record of labor negotiations, that since he's been in charge of labor negotiations, they have never missed a game of baseball. Yet, here we are, missing games of baseball. I struggle to capture this because remember, it's his words saying it would be disastrous outcome for the sport of baseball. His words, it would be disastrous outcome for the sport of baseball to miss opening day. Robbie, you're missing opening day. I don't know when it sets in for him.
Yeah, I do think that this is, and again, I'm just trying to be real as to what I think about what the repercussions of this for the game of baseball are going to be, and I do think it is going to be disastrous. You're reading the comments on Twitter, you're reading the comments all over social media that fans are just like, I'm done. I hope that's not the case. I hope it doesn't take a long time for fans to forgive and forget. You hear things like, this is the fans' fault and stuff like that, we're going to just forgive and forget and go back to the stadium. Personally, I'm going to because I am a baseball junkie. I love the game too much, but I don't think that's going to be the case for a lot of fans. So I hope I'm wrong. But I just think that this is going to be disastrous for the game of baseball, and for Rob to be practicing the golf swing is a bad look. I'm not going to say it's just a bad look.
Terrible.
And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you read things that, maybe they wanted this. They always planned on this was going to be the outcome at the end of the day. Man, that is hard to read. I hope that's not the case. You don't really know what to believe. You're not in those negotiations. You're not sitting at the table. So I really don't know what to think. I'm kind of numb. I think, did you use that word before we started recording?
Numb's a great word. That's how I
totally feel the same way. When is this thing going to get done, Dom? That's I'm going to ask you when. I know the players said let's go back to the negotiating table tomorrow. I don't know if that was a real proposal, or if that's just some players tweeting that out. You just never know. But it sounds like maybe Thursday. But again, that doesn't mean anything's going to get done. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
And also, I want to correct myself. I think I said New York Post. I meant to say New York Daily News, of course. Back page, of course, New York Daily News. But for the photo, if you want to go see the headline, it's great. The point is, I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. We've reached that a fake deadline. It's a fake deadline. It's meant to create urgency and all this stuff, trying to make you forget the fact that Major League Baseball didn't come back to the table for 43 days. Okay, this is my fear. The owners are going to walk away now. They feel they've made their best offer. They're waiting for the players to show back up. The players, their angle is we're at the table, and you're going to see a lot of posts, #@the-table. Players are ready to negotiate and they're ready to play. And Rob Manfred's own words in the press conference after the announcement. The concerns of our fans are at the very top of our consideration list. I challenge him. Are they? Are they? I really don't think they are. If they were at the top of your list, you would not be canceling games on March 1st. You've got a couple more days to fix this. I truly believe that. But are they going to go to the table tomorrow? Doesn't sound like. Or today, this Wednesday. Are they going to come to the table Thursday? It's been unconfirmed reports of that. I'm so lost for words. I'm holding myself down from saying something stupid. You and me both, we love this game too much for our own good. And it doesn't love us back right now. It doesn't love anybody else right now, for that matter. Major League Baseball players are sharing their disdain. Marcus Stroman flat out saying Manfred's got to go. I mean, that's a high-profile Major League Baseball player ready to risk a fine or a slap on the wrist or whatever, saying, yeah, I think the commissioner should be fired. And quite frankly, there's a stronger and stronger case being built against him.
Yeah, I mean, I read that, and Stroman is not one to ever mince words via Twitter, and
I love that about him.
He stands by what he says, and he'll go to bat for himself. Yeah, I mean, we got to be. I think everyone probably has to kind of try and stay positive, as hard as that is. It is very hard. We're all at a loss for words right now. I'll pose a scenario. What if they get back to the table on Thursday and the first two series have already been canceled? It's just flat out been canceled. So how is that going to motivate anybody? I guess the loss of salary for players. So you just worry, look, at the end of the day, you kind of worry that this is going to drag on, right, for half the season. I mean, there really is no end in sight. If they're willing to cancel the first couple of series, then are they willing to cancel the first couple of months? And that's my concern at the end of the day. So many people's livelihoods are dependent on this game. I'm not talking about, the people on the field and the coaches. I'm talking about people that work at the stadium and people, I don't know. I mean, I was a scout at one point during COVID, and that was a horrible feeling, thinking you were going to get furloughed. Are other people, that aren't paid very well, or just kind of scouts, or maybe interns, or maybe people that are working administrative jobs, are they going to be furloughed if this thing carries on? I'm sure, right? There's not a gate, so that's, my heart goes out to those people. You hope that this thing doesn't drag out for too long.
And I want to bring up some hard data here real quick. This is from a study from Forbes a couple years ago. Maury Brown, who I think we got to get on the show at some point here soon. Maury's a really great writer. Reporting the revenues that Major League Baseball made in 2019. They made $10.7 billion in revenue. That doesn't mean profit. That means revenue. They brought in over $10 billion with a B dollars. Okay? I can't quite put it seismically how much money $10 billion is. Okay? And Jeff Passan said it great. If you replace Major League Baseball's 1,200 players with the next best 1,200 players, it would suffer greatly. If you replace Major League Baseball owners with the next best 30 business people, it wouldn't flinch. Okay? So baseball is a healthy sport financially and bringing in revenues, and the players are asking for a little bit bigger of the pie, and it's, everything's absolutely stopped. It's a very weak argument to say that there's not money and coming off of 2020. There's money. And you got a new Fox deal coming right now this year that's about to vest for 2022. It's worth a reported value of $5.1 billion over the life of the deal. The Braves made $100 million according to their books. That's not even probably showing all of the profit. And they didn't even have the All-Star game. Remember, they got the All-Star game moved for political reasons. Imagine how much more money they could have made. It's just, it's not right. It's just, all of us are being robbed. Again, I said this on Monday, or on Monday's episode. The losers aren't the players and the owners. The losers are the fans and the employees and the stadium attendants and the janitors and everybody else. And I'm sick of being annoyed and sounding mad, but I can't not sound like this because it's how I feel.
Yeah, you're passionate about the game, and so am I. And yeah.
We just want to see the game be better where it is. But we'll get to some what's next in reaction. I got to, make sure we get paid here with our friends at Built Bar, okay? Built Bar here in February. Well, now March, actually. Shoot, holy cow, it's March 2nd, Vinny. Oh, my goodness, it's March. Maybe you got to try the Puffs. Maybe you got to get some protein marshmallow in your life. That'll make you happy. The Puffs are a great option for you. Incredible flavors. They've got cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie with Built. They've also got the Built Bars, of course. 100% real chocolate, low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with Built Bars. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. You can go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, that's Built, BUILT.com to get 15% off your order with the promo code LOCKEDON. And, of course, with Rock Auto helping us out today. This episode with Rock Auto, with the ever-increasing number of makes and models, of course, it's impossible for your local chain down the street to have all the parts you're going to need, so that's why you need Rock Auto. You have access with all of the parts your car will ever need at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. And they've got everything you could ever need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Like I just said, we got a brand new headlamp for my mom's GMC Acadia. All right, Rock Auto is where it's at, man. Go to rockauto.com, see all the parts available for your car or truck. All right, Locked On, and how did they hear about us? So you know that we, Dom and Vinny, sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Okay, Tyler Kepner wrote a really, really good piece in the New York Times. I encourage folks to read it. Tyler Kepner also has written baseball books. He's been a long-time baseball writer. The title of it, An Offer That Was Engineered to Be Rejected. And basically he goes out to say, look, Rob Manfred has finally, his bluff's been called and that he has his first opening day lost, and this was never meant to be. And it's a great article. I encourage folks to read it. I don't want to just take everything out of it, but it's great because he talks to Fay Vincent. Okay, Fay Vincent was a former commissioner of baseball. He was also a commissioner in 1990 when there was a March lockout. And Vincent got fired 2 years later because the owners felt, he's too much on the player's side. He's not our kind of guy. And then they hired Bud Selig, of course. So you got to remember, when you go back to 1992, I should say, that everything that the owners have designed to do in their negotiations have been trying to have one of their own lead the way, right? This is where we're at. Bud Selig, we love him in Milwaukee for obvious reasons, bringing baseball back to Milwaukee and what he did for Milwaukee and representing a small market team. He had his back against the wall for a long time, and I commend him for rallying after 1995 and trying to get things going. There was no other issues of labor during his tenure once he took over. That should be praised, and Rob Manfred has just ruined that.
That's a great point. That is a really, really great point. I never even thought of that. And it kind of goes back to my point, like, who's watching after the game? And just trying to make things fair. So, I mean, especially after the last couple negotiations where it seemed as if the owners kind of got the better of the players, right? And so, I don't know, maybe just have the idea or go into it thinking that you're going to give a little bit back. I don't know, maybe they thought they did, and the players felt like it wasn't enough, didn't go far enough, but I don't know. There's a science behind negotiating, right? And I just don't quite understand why they couldn't quite get there. They'll get there sooner or later. But I just wonder if there's going to be much of a game left after that and much of a fan base after that. I mean, look, NHL, ever since their work stoppage, has the NHL come back? Have you looked into that, Dom? I mean, where's the fan base at there? I mean, I know
it's getting there. It's tough. I mean, granted, they've expanded to 2 cities in the years since. They're in Vegas and Seattle now, but it's a diehard fan base in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's obviously a smaller by U.S. standards because there are a chunk of Canadian teams, and those ratings don't count toward actual ratings. But they're back on ESPN now. They're on Turner. I mean, they're still very popular in the United States, but it's. And this leads me straight into back to this Tyler Kepner story. And he got quotes from Faye Vincent and just talking about the importance of getting it done and what it means for baseball, in that this is what Faye Vincent told Tyler Kepner in the New York Times. He said, with Ukraine what it is, it may be a good time for baseball to be in the shadows. The rest of the country should be focusing on real things, and baseball is entertainment. It's a game. I mean, it's really not life-shattering. But he also said earlier in the article, talking about the 1990 negotiation, we can't go on anymore because if we do, we're hurting ourselves, meaning baseball, ownership. We're destroying our own lunch and our own dinner, and that never makes sense. That's Faye Vincent, former commissioner of baseball, 1990, who was later ousted 2 years later for being too kind to the players. And it's just, where do we go from here is that it's proof that these two sides haven't got along. They haven't been getting along for years. And last year was kind of the prelude to it with trying to figure out 60 games. How long will it go on? We can't say sooner as opposed to later because it has to be sooner, right? You have to apply pressure and get these owners to get it together. You need 23 owners to agree to a CBA. You don't need all 30. You need 23 owners to agree to a CBA. So figure out who the holdouts are, and let's try to reason and try to figure this out because I'm going to wait, you're going to wait, a lot of fans are going to wait, but the majority of fans are not going to wait, and that's what's scary.
Great point, especially if this carries on, into April, too deep into April. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. If they can figure this thing out and not sacrifice any more games, maybe, just maybe, we'll forgive them, or the fan base will forgive them by maybe June or so, start trickling back into stadiums. But if it's felt like, oh man, where is baseball? I mean, people need it. Like, I'm sorry, it is just a game. I totally get it, especially with the backdrop of Ukraine-Soviet Union thing going on. That is absolutely devastating and needs to be in the forefront of everyone's news and mind. But the baseball reflects life, man. I mean, it is an everyday grind. There's ups and downs to it. There's a competitiveness. I mean, we go through that every single day in our everyday lives, right? I mean, there is an everyday grind to it, and you go to battle with whatever you're presented with that day, and that's why people, I think, love it because of that. And there's a little reflection about what our everyday lives are. Sometimes it's mundane, sometimes it's super exciting. That's why I love it. But yeah, I definitely think we need it. We need it soon.
Yes. Sooner and not opposed to later. Just sooner. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. It should be done tomorrow. It should be done right now. It's just, it's a really tough spot. We could sit here and talk in circles all day, Vinny. But at the end of the day, there is no news because baseball is officially locked out. First 2 series of the year are canceled. It's a stupid, dark, dumb day for the sport that you and I love so much. And saying it sucks is what I said on Monday's episode. It's worse than that now. It's sickening. It's just disheartening. And
how about
it's gonna take a second to repair, man. It's not gonna happen overnight for me personally. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have a bad taste in my mouth even if they start in that third series of the year. But, I mean, I'll come back, obviously.
Yeah, you and I will come back.
Yeah,
It's going to get better. We're excited to talk about baseball. But I just fear that the damage that has been done to our sport today might be beyond repair. That's what I fear.
Maybe. I mean, I think it's going to take more than a year or two, right? So, so get it done quick. And then just real quick, how about bringing it back to the Brewers? I heard that they play the Orioles, Diamondbacks, and one other really terrible team in April. And so it better not dig into those series where they're playing really crappy teams that they beat up on last year, and it's going to affect their win total.
It's a fair point because they open with the Diamondbacks, right? And then they were supposed to open with the Diamondbacks, like I said. Then they were going to play the Orioles, so those are gone now. You open the season now with the Cubs, then you go to Baltimore, so you'll only get one series with the O's, but it's dumb, man. And then you look at the Rangers, right? The Rangers, they were going to open at home against the New York Yankees. That was going to be 4 consecutive sellouts for them.
Wow.
That's gone. That's gone. It's just so short-sighted, and I hate to be that guy, and we're going to get ready to wrap up on this, but let's be honest. When they do finally come to an agreement, whenever that is, who's to say it's not going to instantly get better in this next 5 years? Who's to say that this is the beginning of some seriously contentious headlines every 5 years in baseball? And that's the exact opposite of what we need right now.
Without a doubt. I mean, especially with the younger generation not really gravitating towards baseball. Hopefully with some of the rule changes, maybe with some of the social media things, with some of the stars of the game that are up and coming, like that'll change, and hopefully there's a new generation coming that loves the game. But yeah, it's a really great point. I mean, the worst thing for the game and for the fans is for this to happen, and it's happening.
Yeah, it is indeed happening. So I want to end the episode with this, though, Vinny. Tell me something that made you smile yesterday, Tuesday. Tell me something that made you smile. Anything.
Oh my goodness, I had a dance party with my girls before bed.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
How about you?
I got to call collegiate baseball on television, and I got to work with legendary U of A, Pepperdine, Florida head coach Andy Lopez. And
That's
that man
awesome.
is just pure positive energy. He's awesome. Got to talk to Josh Holliday, Matt Holliday, Robin Ventura, all these guys. It was an amazing game last night, and Oklahoma State pulled it out. But that made me smile, getting to do what I love, and it's the game of baseball.
If you guys haven't had the chance, sorry to interrupt you, Dom. If you guys haven't had the chance to listen to Dom call a game, it's a work of art. I mean, he's very talented, and I'm going to make him blush a little bit here, but he knows it, right? He knows he's good.
I'm going to deny it, and I appreciate the kind words.
But he's very talented, and I mean, he makes this show kind of run, and I really enjoy doing it with him, but he's a very talented broadcaster.
It's not kind of. It's you and me both. It's It's not one guy. It's two guys. So that's it. We're going to try to put a smile on our faces. We have to rework the schedule, by the way, for the rest of this week for our next episode. We're going to do 3 episodes a week for the meantime. But, Vinny, thanks for hopping on for this pod. And, hopefully you keep smiling, having dance parties with your daughters, all right?
I will. Thanks, Dom.
All right, we'll see you guys for our next episode soon. Stay locked on our social media pages at Locked On Brewers. He's Vinny. I'm Dom. Even though baseball is locked out, keep on swinging.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.